Shabbat Shalom. It is really, really good to be with all of you. To be together again, it is good to see you. It's exciting, right? It sort of crackles a bit in the air to be back here. We last gathered, to put this in perspective, for Shabbat services here on March 6th, 2020. That was our last open seating service pre-pandemic lockdown. And now it feels so different and at the same time so familiar. Your eyes look familiar to me from Zoom, but the lower half of your face, it's nice. It's a good look for you. Different and familiar. Tonight, I tell you, is the first Erev Shabbat service in over a year where I put any thought at all into my pants matching my jacket. For that matter, this is the first service where I am wearing shoes. Because while masks may be optional, no shoes, no service. It's been an exciting week as we've been getting ready and anticipating our opening our services and welcoming everyone back into the sanctuary, and tomorrow for Shabbat services in the morning in the garden. It feels like company has been coming. We're getting ready. It's like the high holidays. The kids are coming home. Rabbi Henry regrets that she's not with us this evening. She led services last weekend and will do so again next week, but is presently on her way with her younger son Asher to Indianapolis, where he will spend the summer as a song leader at Gucci, the URJ camp in Zionsville, Indiana. And our summer commences now here tonight with our reopening and with our reimagining what it means to gather and what it means to be grateful at this moment in time for all that God has gifted us. It is good to be together, Hine ma tov u'manayim, and it is good to give thanks, Shehechianu, for all our many blessings. Our service continues on page 10 at the top of the page as we celebrate our gathering together.
Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. 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 Hine ma tov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad.
We continue with our candle lighting. It's found on page 2, and it's my privilege to welcome the president of our congregation, Karen Breen, who led us through this pandemic so ably and beautifully, and we are very grateful. Our annual meeting is just on the horizon, Sunday, the 13th. Our annual meeting next Sunday, and then we'll have an opportunity to honor Karen thereafter.
Thank you. It's actually even more cathartic than I thought it was going to be. So, wonderful.
Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen. Thank you. And we continue with the Shechianu, expressing our gratitude for together in health reaching this moment in time.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Page 24, Shalom Aleichem.
שלום עליכם מלכי שרת, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם מלכי השרת, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. שלום עליכם מלאכי השרת, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום מלכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום מלכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. בואכם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום מלכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום מלכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ברכוני לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. צאתם לשלום מלאכי השלום, מלאכי עליון ממלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 13, Shir Chadash.
שיר חדש
And on page 19, Adonaios. The last two lines in Hebrew.
Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo. Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo.
Having warmed up a bit on page 20 and 21, Lecha Dodi, with which we greet the bride of Shabbat, the light of day as it begins to ebb, and the foretaste of what is to come. We sing together, and at the end we'll invite you, as you may be able, to rise, and then we'll offer an opportunity to safely greet one another. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Enei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Enei Shabbat nekabela.
Shamor v'zachor v'dibur echad, Ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad, U'shmo echad, Shemo l'tiferet ve'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki mekor ha'beracha, Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha Dodi likrat chala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Hit'oreri, ki ba'oref, u'mi'ori, uri.
Shir daberi, kevod Adonai, alayich niglam. Lecha Dodi likrat kala,
Penei
Shabbat nekabela. As you may be able, we invite you to rise.
Ho'i v'shalom ateret bala, Gam v'simcha u'v'tzola, Toch emunei am segula. Ho'i chala, Ho'i chala.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela. We turn to one another, we greet each other, we wave, we give fist bumps, we handshake or hug as you're comfortable, as we extend Shabbat Shalom greetings to each other. Hey, good. I'm good. It's great to see everybody. Hey, Shabbat Shalom. Glad you're here.
What?
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Welcome. Glad you're here. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you.
We just watched our wedding tape 38 years ago. You officiated. So we watched it for one of the first times in 30 years. It was so wonderful seeing everybody.
That's special. That's special.
It was very special. So we had 3 rabbis. That's why we're bearing there.
Well,
We're bearing.
will you join us at the very end for benediction? Do you want to do that? Yeah? Okay. We'll skip. Okay. On page 22, we continue once more with song. Mizmor Shir at the top of the page, and then the indented portion, Sadiq Katamar.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמחה עליון, ולזמר לשמחה עליון, להגיד בבוקר חסדך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי אסור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון וכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמחה עליון, ולזמר לשמחה עליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך ארנן. מה גדול מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון. צדיק כתמר יפרח,
יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, 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 כארז בלבנון יזכה. צדיק כתמר יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, יפרח, צדיק כתמר יפרח, כארז בלבנון יזכה, 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 כארז בלבנון יזכה. The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש מרבה, ועל מה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ויומכון, ובחיי לכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו בהר ודרומיו מתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמיר קודשו בריחו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושלכתה ונחמתה, תמירן ועלמה, ויאמרו Amen.
As you may be able, we rise in body or spirit for the Baruch Hu, our call to worship on page 28.
Lai, 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 lai. 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 Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai,
Aye.
Hama'ariv,
Aravim.
Aravim.
Ahavot olam et Yisrael Amcha v'tah Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu V'shochbeinu בחוקיך ונשמח בדברי תורתך ובמצוותיך לעולם ועד כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו תסיר ממנו לעולמים, ברוך אתה אדוני, אוהב עמו ישראל. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
Please be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ושוכבך וקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
On page 39, I'm reading before Micha Mocha. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות עושה צלם. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, נורא תהילות ראו בניך חוקי הים, לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו, פנו ואמרו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, who is like you? כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
We turn the page for our evening prayer, Hashkivenu.
השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, העמידנו שומרנו לחיים. עתידנו שומרנו לחיים. ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים.
Turn the page, and there find this Shamru. It's 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש.
Page 46 and following, you come to Avot V'Imahot, and once more, do we invite you to rise in body or spirit as you may be able.
Adonai, sefatai tifkach, ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol, HaGibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ויחד. מלך עוזר מושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה.
Page 50.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומדומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, נאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל.
Page 52.
אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש,
וקדושים בכל יום הלוך הסלע.
ברוך אתה אדוני,
האל הקדוש. Please be seated. We continue with our own silent reflections and prayer. Page 62. Bottom of the page.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ועל כל יושבי תבל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו, ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן, ואמרו אמן.
With thoughts of peace in our mind, we turn to page 253. 253 in the center of the page there to find Misha Berach. We offer Misha Berach in thought and mind of those in need of healing, physical, spiritual. We have a list of names that have been provided and invite you to share names as well. And we'll solicit from our mixed presence from the chat also. We think now of Dale Anderson, Ira Altschuler, Miriam Baral, Ann Barbour, David Bisno, Lou Salenzi, Hinda Sara Batchana Peril, Kathy James, and Cy Lauf, Mary Litzel, Chaim David Ben Miriam, Rif Karishi, Bill Rakoff, Debbie Rokoski, Eliana Shira, Drew Tomasi, Clodius Willis, Joan Wolf Woolley, and Doreen Zisla. Are there other names anyone would like to share aloud? Please. Thank you. Please, Nancy. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Bill? Thanks. Thank you. Have I missed anyone who'd like to share a name aloud? I don't know if we have any in the chat. Will you share those with us? Brian Reuter, Alex Biro, Betty Gray, Tanya Palmer, Les Palmer. We join together in Misha Berach.
a renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
It's been quite a year. 455 days, in fact, since we last gathered for Shabbat services in this room, not to mention in the various Zoom rooms that were ours over this past year, the various screens and monitors through which we perceived the rest of the world. 455 days since we gathered here last. The hostages held in Tehran were held for, who remembers? 444 days. So there we are. Amazing. We've come as a result of this past year to know new things, or to be denied the ability to not know certain truths about our society and about our citizenry, about the power of social media to bring us together and to drive us apart. We now understand, or at least we see, so much more than we did only 16 months ago. And the more that we see, these are words from lyrics penned by Dan Fogelberg in a bluegrass song, well, the more that you see, the less that you know, the less that you know, the more that you yearn to know. And what do we yearn for most? Perhaps to understand one another better, to understand another, to be understood, and to be able to appreciate what it means to hold two truths in our minds simultaneously, which is what F. Scott Fitzgerald called genius, and what our Torah portion this week teaches is essential basic Judaism. In this week's Torah portion called Shlach Lecha, we read the story of the spies. That is, the 12 representatives, one each from the 12 tribes of Israel, whom Moses assigns the task of going from their wandering path into the promised land to scope it out and to spy and see what they can learn about the land and its inhabitants. And then comes back the report, 10 report that it is overwhelming and the odds are too great and we will surely be defeated. And only Joshua and Caleb, 2 of the 12, report back with an optimistic report. And it is as a result of this event, this pivotal moment in the Torah, that the Israelites diverged from entering the promised land and continued to wander for another, 39 and a half years. And then upon their return from their scouting expedition, when they're asked to report what happens, 10 of the spies offer a demoralizing report. And only Joshua and Caleb are optimistic. Indeed, after hearing of the other spies' pessimism, Caleb, we are told, manages to silence them and to argue that despite the obstacles, we can surely overcome. Later, when God informs Moses that as punishment for the Israelites' faithfulness and pessimism, the desert generation will die out before reaching the promised land, God mentions that Caleb and Moses' successor Joshua, they are an exception to this death decree because Caleb and Joshua had a different spirit than did the others. A different spirit. Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo ben Isaac, the most famous of our biblical exegetes, explained in the 12th century from his home in France that by different spirit, the Torah intends to teach that Caleb had the ability to see twofold and to see double. What does this imply? That while Caleb was with the other spies, he spoke to them with an understanding. Having heard their complaints and their fears, he was able to reflect back to them that he appreciated their concerns. And then, while still holding in his heart their truth, he spoke his own. And in this way, he was able to quiet or silence the people and then encourage them. Rashi goes on to say that the other Israelite spies believed Caleb was with them. That is, they believed he shared their opinions and positions, and thus when they returned to the camp of Israel, Caleb was able to silence and then speak on their behalf. Although it is possible to read Rashi's critique as telling us that Caleb was acting perhaps duplicitously or with an ulterior motive, in essence giving lip service to the thoughts and ideas of the other spies by only pretending to agree with them. I prefer to think that Caleb's double spirit, his different spirit, included an inclination and a willingness to listen with empathy and understanding to his fellows' fears. Because Caleb gave them to feel that he understood and empathized with them, the 10 spies were reminded to hear what he had to say. And so it was that he successfully silenced them when he was able to get them to listen. I thought about this a lot as I read this past week and absorbed the news coming out of Israel about the new political alignment taking place, such that it appears that Bibi Netanyahu's 12-year term as prime minister will be coming soon to an end. I don't intend to opine on Israeli politics, only to center our attention on the difficult work it must have been to bring this coalition together. Such far-flung parties, a right-wing party to the right of Bibi Netanyahu and a few members of an Arab party sharing a coalition. It was perhaps best captured in a triumphant headline in the New York Times this week that said, "Could a government united by enmity for Netanyahu change Israel?" Naftali Bennett, who leads a small right-wing party, and Yair Lapid, the centrist leader of the Israeli opposition, the article tells us, have joined forces to try to form a diverse coalition that would unseat Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving prime minister. Spanning Israel's fractious political spectrum from left to right, and relying on the support of a small Arab Islamist party, the proposed coalition, dubbed the Change Government by supporters, could represent a profound political shift in Israel. Again, I'm not commenting on the political reality on the ground there, but only to call our attention to the time and the difficulty to overcome the obstacles that surely existed between these erstwhile opponents, between these right-wing parties and these Arab partners, lions and tigers and bears. Oh my. That requires a different spirit. And we live in a polarized age. Politically, our country, we know well, is riven. And within the Jewish community, according to the latest report coming out of the Pew Research Center about American Jews, within the Jewish community too, our most widely shared defining characteristic, beyond appreciating and enjoying being Jewish, albeit in different ways than was true in generations prior, our most defining characteristic as a community is our polarization. The Jewish community is split into essentially what appear to be two camps, the Orthodox and the non-Orthodox, or if you will prefer, as with the rest of the country, political conservatives and political liberals. It is as if team blue and white is now red and blue, and there's not a whole lot of gray between them. It is taught that in the Talmud, there are a pair of rabbis named Hillel and Shammai, and they are perhaps the most famous of the zugot, of the pairings of rabbis from the first century. And invariably, when they have an argument or dispute, the law follows the teachings of Rabbi Hillel over that of Rabbi Shammai. Time and time again, it's decisive. And the tradition asks, what is it about Rabbi Hillel's opinions that distinguish them from Rabbi Shammai's such that they should win the day and be the prevailing way in which our tradition has evolved? And the answer that comes to us is that Hillel, invariably, when presenting his own argument, would present the position of his opponents before his own, showing both deference and understanding of the opposite opinion. Or, in the words of Rabbi Yitz Greenberg, who is significantly both an Orthodox rabbi and a Harvard-trained PhD who is committed to pluralism, he teaches that it is easy to tell another what you like about your own group, your own party, or your own religious tradition, and it is easy to identify what you find fault with in the other. But our task is to identify that which we appreciate and admire in the other's opinion, and to own up to the ways in which our own opinions are flawed. But on a very few things, I want to say we are united. All of us against certain words, certain acts, opinions that are defining of anti-Semitism. For example, and we are aware of it not only because We are part of the Jewish community in Pittsburgh, just a few blocks down the road from the iconic symbol of anti-Semitic violence in the United States on the corner of Shady and Wilkins. But we are aware of it because of what's happening right now in the United States and around the world. A rash of anti-Semitic acts in the guise often of an equal opportunity humanitarianism, which is sick and disjointed, or it can often be rooted in a critique of the state of Israel, which is not just a category error, but a moral corruption as well. While we as Jews are a people who are known not just for tolerating, but for preserving space for the minority opinion or the voice that would otherwise have been lost to a deciding veto, for as Jews, while we tolerate and indeed encourage diverse opinions, believing that robust debate is good for democracy, we cannot abide rank racism, and anti-Semitism is nothing less. We cannot allow a pernicious, insidious scourge such as anti-Semitism to go unchecked for fear of our calling for such positions to be rejected, being equated with our calling for the cancellation of the people who hold these positions. My friends, it is paramount that we listen more than we speak. And it is essential that we listen before we speak. And no less is it our responsibility, after listening, to think before we speak, or, in the words of my grandfather, to put one's brain in gear before they open their mouth. But some ideas and some speech is evil, and is no less a vile virus than any humanity has ever known, and such is the virus of anti-Semitism. And though thankfully, with words of no less than George Washington in his letter to the Hebrew congregation of Newport, Rhode Island, happily this nation gives to bigotry no sanction, to persecution no assistance. If we merely listen to different opinions and divergent ideas, and we give them no more passing thought than that they deserve attention because all opinions are equal, without regard to their veracity or their moral value, then I say we are failing to heed Caleb's lesson, which comes to us tonight, because in our inclination to listen and to understand, so must we be willing to discern and to distinguish between words that need to be said, truths that need to be heard, and talk that need not be tolerated, and speech which must be silenced. It is a tricky balance, calling out speech and at times calling out silence. It can be uncomfortable, making room for the truths of others and modeling how we would wish to be understood. Of the 10 spies that went into the land and returned with a pessimistic report, we say, we hear you. We understand, believe me, we can relate to pessimism. But it is in Caleb's ability both to appreciate and to encourage that distinguishes him above his peers. And we could do worse than to adopt Caleb's spirit, a different spirit, but one that allows our lives to be infused with double the blessing. Shabbat Shalom. We turn back to our prayer books as we prepare to bring our service to its conclusion on page 282. Like always, we find Elenu. 282 in the middle of the page. If you're able, won't you please rise?
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא שהוא נוטש שמיים ויוצר הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינת וזום, דגותי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אחד, אמת מלכנו, אפס גדולתו, כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום, להשיבות אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ, מתחת אין עוד ונאמר והיה אדוני המלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
If you're able, I invite you to continue standing as we turn together to 294. There we find the ancient hallowed words of Kaddish. To turn our thoughts to those who have departed this earth in these most recent days and those whose yahrzeit falls this week. Remember all those we care in our hearts whose memories give meaning and blessing to our lives. We remember now Leonard Barenfield, Carol Tobin Lewis, Hope Coleman Layton, Jeffrey Mark Robinson, Eugene Strasburger III. We remember as well Milton Bilder, Benjamin Davis, Ethel Landerman, Constance Marstein, Jerry Ostro, Esther Schwartz, Erica Lane Tamusha, and Jane Warren. Do we have any other names to share? Other names anyone wants to share? Please, Nancy. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to make sure I haven't missed anyone or the names in the chat. Gittel Meyerson. We join together. Yitkadal, Vyitkadash Shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'alma divra chirutei v'amlich malchutei. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal. Shmei d'kudsha. Richu. Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechamata. Ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'akol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. V'akol Yisrael. V'imru. Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all the world. We say once more, Amen. Please be seated.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'imru.
Prepare to conclude our service. My privilege to welcome Karen Breen back to share with us some announcements and word from the board.
Well, I'd gotten used to giving the announcements from my Shrek of an office, and I have to say, this is a real upgrade. To be sitting here as services were concluding and to see the light streaming in through the stained glass windows and to be surrounded by all of you is really marvelous. So I have a few things to say, a few thank yous. As I've said before, I am in awe of the worship team. Rabbi Bisno, Rabbi Henry, who's not here tonight but will be next week, Don McGahan, Molly May. By virtue of my position, I get to peek behind the curtain a little bit and see what's involved in putting together the services that inspire us each week. It's the work of the worship team, it's the work of the staff, it's the work of the guards out front. It's the work of Emily, the Pittsburgh policewoman I just met earlier today, who decided to take her break in the parking lot to give us a little extra protection. It's all of those things that happen within our community and beyond to allow us to worship together and to come together as community. But really enormous thanks to the worship team. Again and again, every week you inspire us with your words and your music. Thank you. So some announcements. We have lots of things going on. You'll see them in the Shalomogram. If you're not getting it, please feel free to call me or email me. I promise, even after the annual meeting, after Matthew becomes president, I'll still take your calls. I'll be happy to help in any way I can. But you'll see them, all the events coming up. But a couple of them I'd like to highlight. The annual meeting is coming up. First of all, I'm sorry, Peter. Sorry, back one slide. Thank you. I forgot a couple of thank yous. Peter Rosenfeld is at his house running Zoom with Bill Klingensmith, who's in the back of the auditorium helping coordinate with Peter. We had ushers here tonight, Bob and Nancy Rosenthal and Sandy Davis. They're all part of what makes this worship service work as well. Anyway, tomorrow morning, there's a little bit of a change on Saturday morning in terms of time. Text study starts at 9 o'clock. That'll be inside in the Littman Library. And then our Saturday morning, our Shabbat morning services will be in the Biblical Garden. And we'll start at 10 a.m. so that we can finish a little bit before it gets really warm outside. In the case of rain, we'll be inside in Aaron Courtyard. So we invite you tomorrow to Torah study at 9 and into the Biblical Garden at 10. But a week from Sunday, is our annual meeting of the congregation, and that's what I really wanted to draw attention to. We invite you to join us by Zoom and by phone. When we planned the annual meeting, we didn't realize we would be opening up for services. So one last time, please join us on Zoom or by phone. And I promise it'll be an interesting meeting. But that's the time when we do the work of the congregation. We'll be passing the budget, discussing the budget and passing it. We'll be ushering in new board members and a new slate of officers. And of course, we'll have an opportunity to honor people. So I hope you'll join us Sunday, June 13th at 11 a.m. You'll be getting a mailing this week, actually print, hard copy, a thing you can hold, that will have some of the documents you need for the annual meeting, although they'll also be posted online. Finally, I just wanted to mention that the JJEP registration is now open, and if you know families who might be interested, I will tell you that there are, we've been so fortunate to have a partnership with Beth Shalom to be able to have a joint congregational religious school. But I will tell you, we have students who are also of families who are unaffiliated. And so if you know someone who's interested in having their child have a religious education, but maybe is not in a position or a disposition to join a congregation, I hope you'll spread the word. And I think that it's a terrific thing that we offer. So with that, I want to wish you all health and Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you. We bring our service to a conclusion. Adon Olam is our final song. It's on page 321. And then we will share blessings over wine and challah. 321. Adon Olam
והוא אחד ואין שני, להבחילו להכירה, ולי ראשית ולי תחתית, ולא העוז והמזרח,
ולא העוז והמזרע,
והוא
לי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, עינת כוסי ביום אקרא, עינת כוסי ביום אקרא,
בידו כדרוכי, ועת אישון ועירה,
ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא, אדוני לי ולא אירא. Kiddush is on page 5.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, b'shabbat kodsho b'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, ki banu b'charta, ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen. L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen. If you're able, won't you please rise for our concluding benediction, after which I invite you, as you make your way out of the sanctuary, to be good enough to take your prayer books with you, to return them to the ushers, and they'll put them on the cart. We'll be very grateful for that. There is no oneg yet. We're not quite there yet, but we look forward to having time together. Brachim atem b'voachem, brachim atem b'tseitchem. As we have been blessed in our gathering together, so may we be blessed as we go forth from here into this beautiful evening, into the summer beyond, and to a life of health and meaning and togetherness. Amen. Shabbat Shalom.
Masks.
Oh, and please put your masks back on as you go through the commons area. Thank you. Thank you, Del. I know I didn't. I was. How are you? How you been?
Shalom, everyone.
Nice to see you. I don't know. Everyone's a little different in terms of. We were talking about whether or not you can share a challah, whether or not you can. Everyone's got a different level of comfort.
You need to get a knife for the challah.
A
That's
knife.
actually what we